Mrs. Webster Storytime.
Hi, and welcome back to another instalment of The Twits. We can't go on forever just watching these two disgusting people doing disgusting things to each other. We better get ahead with the story. Here is a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Twits' house and garden. It looks like a prison, doesn't it? And not a window anywhere. Who wants windows? Mr. Twit had said when they were building it. Who wants every Tom, Dick and Harry peeping in to see what you're doing? It didn't occur to Mr. Twit that, of course, windows were mainly meant for looking out of, not for looking into. And what do you think of that ghastly old garden? Well, Mrs. Twit was the gardener. She was very good at growing thistles and stinging nettles. I always grow plenty of spiky thistles and plenty of stinging nettles, she used to say. They keep those nasty, nosy little children away. Near the house, you can see Mr. Twit's workshed. To one side, there is the big dead tree. It never has any leaves on it because it's dead. Shall we see if we can see it? There it is. And not far from the tree, you can see the monkey cage. There are 4 monkeys in it. They belong to Mr. Twit, and you'll hear about those later. Once a week on Wednesdays, the Twits had bird pie for supper. Bird pie. Mr. Twit caught the birds and Mrs. Twit cooked them. Mr. Twit was good at catching birds. On the day before bird pie, he would climb up the tree on a ladder and with a big bucket of glue and a paintbrush. The glue he used was something called Hug Tight, and it was stickier than any other glue in all the world. He would paint it along the tops of all the branches and then he'd go away. As the sun went down, birds would fly in from all around to roost for the night in the big dead tree. They didn't know, poor things, that the branches were all smeared with horrible Hug-Tight glue. The moment they landed on their branch, their feet stuck, and that was that. The next morning, which was bird pie day, Mr. Twit would climb up the ladder again and grab all those wretched birds that were stuck to the tree. It didn't matter what kinds they were, song thrushes or blackbirds or sparrows or crows or little Jenny wrens or robins, anything. They all went into the pot for Wednesday's bird pie supper. One Tuesday evening, after Mr. Twit had been up the ladder and smeared the tree with Hug-Tight glue, 4 little boys crept into the garden to look at the monkeys. They didn't care about the thistles and the stinging nettles, not when there were monkeys to look at. After a while, they got tired of looking at the monkeys, so they explored further into the garden, and they found the ladder leaning against the big dead tree. They decided to climb up it, just for fun. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? The next morning, when Mr. Twit went out to collect the birds, he found 4 miserable little boys sitting in the tree, stuck as tight could be by the seats of their pants to the branches. And there were no birds because, of course, the little boys had scared them all away. Mr. Twit was furious. "As there are no birds for my pie tonight," he shouted, "then it'll have to be boys instead." He started to climb the ladder. "Boy pie might taste better than bird pie," he went on, grinning horribly. "More meat and not so many tiny little bones." The boys were terrified. "He's going to boil us," cried one of them. "He'll stew us alive," wailed the other. "He'll cook us with carrots," cried the third. But the 4th little boy, who had a bit more sense than the others, whispered, "Listen, I've just had an idea. We are only stuck by the seats of our pants. So quick, unbutton your pants and slip out of them, and then we'll climb to the ground." There are the 4 boys in the tree. And there they are. They've slipped out of their pants that we call trousers, and they've climbed to the ground. By the time Mr. Twit reached the top of the ladder and was just about to make a grab for the nearest boy, they all tumbled out of the tree and ran for home as fast as they could. Now, for the monkeys. The 4 monkeys in the cage in the garden were all one family. They were Mugglewump and his wife and their 2 small children, What on earth were Mr. and Mrs. Twit doing with monkeys in their garden, I hear you wonder? Well, in the old days, they had both worked in a circus as monkey trainers. They used to teach monkeys to do tricks and to dress them up in human clothes and to smoke pipes and all the rest of that nonsense. Today, though, they were retired. Mr. Twit still wanted to train monkeys. It was his dream that one day he would own the first great upside-down monkey circus in the world. That meant that the monkeys had to do everything upside down. They had to dance upside down, on their hands with their feet in the air, and they had to play football upside down, and they had to balance one on top of each other, upside down. Here they are, practicing their walking upside down. They even had to eat and drink upside down, and that is not an easy thing to do because food and water has to go up your throat instead of down it. And in fact, it's almost impossible. But the monkeys simply had to do it, otherwise they got nothing to eat at all. This all sounds pretty silly to, well, you and me. It sounded pretty silly to the monkeys too. They absolutely hated having to do everything upside down all day after day. It made them giddy standing on their heads for hours on end. Sometimes the two small monkey children would faint with so much blood going to their heads. But Mr. Twit didn't care about that. He kept them practicing for 6 hours every day. And if they didn't do as they were told, Mrs. Twit would come running with her beastly stick. Mugglewump and his family longed to escape from the cage in Mr. Twit's garden and go back to the African jungle where they came from. They hated Mr. and Mrs. Twit for making their lives so miserable. They also hated them for what they did to the birds every Tuesday and Wednesday. "Fly away, birds," they would shout, jumping about and waving their arms in the air. "Don't sit on the big dead tree. It's been smeared all over with sticky glue." There they are. But these were English birds, of course, and they couldn't understand the weird African language that the monkeys spoke, so they took no notice and they went on using the big dead tree and getting caught for Mrs. Twit's bird pie. Then one day, a truly magnificent bird flew down from the sky and landed on the monkey cage. There she is. It was a roly-poly bird. "Oh, goodness me, what are you doing here in England?" said the monkeys. Because like the monkeys, the roly-poly bird came from Africa, and he spoke the same language as they did. "I've come for a holiday," said the roly-poly bird. "I like to travel," and he fluffed his marvellous coloured feathers and looked down rather grandly at the monkeys. "For most people," he went on, "flying away on holiday is very expensive, but I can fly anywhere in the world for nothing." "Do you know how to talk to these English birds?" Mugglewump asked him. "Of course I do," said the roly-poly bird. "It's no good going to a country not knowing the language." "Then we must hurry," said Mugglewump. "Today is Tuesday, and over there you can already see the revolting Mr. Twit up his ladder painting sticky glue all over the branches of the big dead tree. This evening, when birds come to perch on that tree, they will be stuck and made into bird pie." That evening, the roly-poly bird flew round and round the big dead tree, singing out, "There's sticky stuff all over the tree. If you land on the branches, you'll never be free. So fly away, stay up high, or you'll finish up tomorrow in a hot bird pie."